the IDF's new offensive arrest warrants for over 1,000 ultra-Orthodox draft dodgers. In a controversial crackdown highlighting the deepening tensions between Israel's military needs and religious freedom, the Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, has taken unprecedented action by issuing 1,126 arrest warrants for ultra Orthodox Jews who have failed to respond to military draft notices. This move comes at a particularly sensitive time as Israel grapples with ongoing military operations and increased defense requirements. Brigadier General Shay Taib revealed that of the 3,000 ultra Orthodox who received draft orders, 1,126 were issued arrest warrants for those who did not report to the first and second orders, underscoring the stark resistance among the Haredi community, which has historically been exempt from military service to pursue religious studies. The situation has ignited fierce debate in Israeli society, with opposition leader Yair Lapid demanding immediate additional conscription orders, while military officials acknowledge a complex reality. Despite needing 10,000 new soldiers, they can only accommodate 3,000 ultra Orthodox recruits due to the special provisions required for their religious lifestyle. So basically, they needed 10,000, but because of essentially the burden of integrating this specific population, it's only worthwhile for them to take on 3,000. This limitation has drawn sharp criticism from lawmakers like Likud's Yuli Edelstein, who argues that the current numbers are woefully inadequate for a country facing significant security challenges, especially considering that the ultra Orthodox make up 12% of Israel's population. So, ay, ay, ay. Okay, my friends. Let us hear from the Israelis in the live chat because I want y'all's opinions. Because this is a very sensitive situation for those who are maybe not kind of familiar with this, what's going on. There's been an ongoing for many years, but it's kind of come to a head over the past year issue with the Haredi, or the ultra Orthodox community, not being part of the conscription, mandatory military service within Israel. And this has gotten extremely problematic as that population grows larger. And they utilize public services and benefits, state benefits, as much as everyone else, but they are not really pulling their fair share, many would argue, when it comes to the defense of the nation. And this has caused a stark division, or some levels of resentment that I've seen among Israeli society, among people who are sending their sons and daughters to war. But the specific community doesn't have to because they get this special exemption. Um, and some even go about their life as if there is no war. Um, and I think, I don't know, this is something that is not to be taken lightly, because I think the draft is, and this isn't exactly a draft, but conscription is something that is very serious, especially during wartime. Like, I don't want to treat it flippantly. I think that doesn't speak to the gravity of what it is. I mean, especially within my nation, I'm a woman. I never have to worry about that. Um, and so it would be easy for me to be like, "Oh, what's the big deal? Just do it, do it, do it." No, no, but this is very serious. This is a huge thing to ask of someone, to ask of the
But
citizenry.
it's a double standard. Okay, fine, but as long as other people are doing it, why the fuck can they get away with whether or not this should be asked of people? That's a
Yeah.
separate issue. The
Mhm.
consistency in the standard, like, this is religious privilege. This is fucking
Yeah.
religious privilege. I get to have other laws. I have to other standards because I have a sky daddy that considers me to be a special person. So you, as the state, should also consider me a very special person because my sky daddy considers me a special person. This is fucking bullshit. I don't give a shit about your fucking stupid religion. You are a citizen. You should be treated like every other fucking citizen. I don't care about your personal beliefs. I don't give a shit about your personal beliefs. Okay, my personal beliefs is that I want to steal them. My Sky ID tells me to steal, to go to malls and pick up. This is my deeply held belief, is that I get to go to a mall and pick stuff up and get out of the mall without paying for it. Treat me differently? Fuck off. I don't. What the hell? What the fucking hell? I mean, if they shouldn't be forced to go to war or to serve in the military, then nobody should be forced. But if other people are being forced, then they should go as well. No religious privileges for you. What the fuck? I don't understand. This is obvious to me. Is there any argument in favor of this? Like, I don't understand. I'm glad in Israel more and more people are standing up against this bullshit. I get a sense, based on what I'm seeing from Israel, there's more and more hatred towards these freeloaders in Israel. Like, it's growing. Like, a lot of people are like, it was there before because most of Israel is like has a secular mindset, but ever since this war, the fact that most of Israel is paying a heavy price for this, and these people are just like, oh yeah, no, we don't have to because of religious reasons, is making the more people call out this bullshit in Israel more than before. Is this the trend in Israel?
I saw a rabbi from this community saying that this is worse than the annihilation of the Jewish people. And I'm like,
wait, what?
There was a rabbi saying that this is worse than the annihilation of the Jewish people.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Isn't this an insult to the Holocaust family of the Holocaust victims?
Because so apparently, I didn't know this, there's been instances throughout history where forced military conscription was a way to forcibly assimilate Jewish populations. And so they see it as a mandate to work to preserve this element of Jewish tradition and culture. And that this is a way for that to be chipped away at and destroyed. And so that's why they see it as worse to a certain degree. I don't think I'm doing the argument due justice.
The religious culture is to do the celebrations, to do the food, to do the like dancing and all of that. You don't is part of Jewish culture.
No, they're talking about the Torah study and the
to be able to get your woman to do both the housework and be the bread bringer, go make income, and also do the housework while you just pick a text and go like this all your fucking life. Both the state, you're basically a freeloader in your family. You're taking advantage of the woman in your family more than even fucking Muslims. Okay, Muslims treat women like, I go do my work, I'll bring the money, but you have to do as I say in the household and clean everything and take care of the children. These mofos are even worse than that. They're like, no, actually, you take care of everything in the house, you take care of the children, and you go work and bring the money. I just read religious texts. Is this the culture that you want to preserve? Jewish culture will be better if this goes extinct. Honestly, if this culture, if this fucking disgusting part of your culture goes extinct, that's an improvement to Jewish culture. So yeah, get rid of this. Like, what the fuck is this? This is disgusting. This is absolutely disgusting. I mean, Israel is better because it's secular. It's more secular. The secular liberal part of Israel is what's making Israel superior to other countries in the Middle East. Not this bullshit. Not this bullshit. The culture that Israel brought from Europe to the Middle East, that's what makes Israel better. The part of the culture that Israel inherited from the rest of the Middle East, that is not what making Israel better, right? So there's two cultures in Israel that is competing. One that inherited from Europe and the other that inherited from the Middle East. The one that inherited from Europe, that's what makes Israel superior to all the other countries in the Middle East.
Yeah, I was recently watching so I watch some Israeli media that's English language sometimes, and I was watching a conversation amidst a bunch of women, and some of them were female activists from the ultra-Orthodox community. and they were talking about that phenomenon. And apparently the whole thing of women being kind of the breadwinners and also working is actually a newer phenomenon. It's they said it kind of started in the 90s. And so and it's there's a lot of variety within it. Um uh I think um and so based on the media that I consume, which is obviously, has its limitations and its biases, whatever, I see certain attitudes reflected of Israelis talking about their frustrations, um, that some feel that there is a sense of entitlement from the community, that they are very frustrated by, that they feel like is unreasonable, maybe a sense of moral or spiritual righteousness that they find distasteful, like the idea that their spiritual warfare is as important, if not more important, than the people actually doing the fighting. Um, and and but there are other people within the Haredi community who are working to promote service within their communities, because there are instances where there might be someone that wants to serve, but they face a social cost for serving. They can be ostracized, they can face issues within their community if they do make the choice to serve voluntarily. And there are initiatives to what's the word I'm looking for? Bolster people who do serve, to make accommodations, to design programs to encourage them to serve as much as possible. So there are people that take it very seriously and like are actively promoting it within the community and making huge efforts to make that more normalized and accepted. So I don't want to make it seem like it's black and white. Like there are a lot of people that do want to really contribute in that way. There's just like all these barriers and obstacles. Um but now, for the first time over the past year, because of some court decisions that came down and things that happened within Netanyahu's government, now they're actually allowed to go ahead and start sending out these draft orders to men in this community. And that that has shaken up things incredibly. I mean, there was at one point where people were concerned about this actually like breaking Netanyahu's government, you know? Um and um So let's look at
Wait, wait,
some.
wait. Before you do that, I want to say a couple of things. Okay. First
Yeah,
of all,
yeah, yeah.
I am very happy to see this happening. Wait, do you want to just go to the comments?
No, go ahead.
No. Okay. 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 So, I'm happy to see this happening under the most right-leaning government that Israel has ever had. Right? To me, this shows that there's a huge demand for this. This is not like a lefty government. Okay. The fact that we're seeing this happening for the first time under the most right-leaning government Israel has ever had shows that the forces that want this in Israel are so strong. Does it, okay? So I just want to make sure, like, because I see a lot of people in the chat thinking that I am taking a position against is what Israelis want, but to me, this actually shows that this is what Israeli want. Also, a lot of people misunderstand what I'm saying, including John. Okay, so John is saying some of the ultra-Orthodox are very much from Europe. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about ideas. I was born in Iran. I was born in the Middle East. I'm a liberal. Liberalism and secularism and democratic ideas, they became popularized in the West. So just because they're from Europe, that doesn't mean these ideas were originated in Europe. Okay, so if that's so, is liberal ideas now a Middle Eastern idea because me, a liberal, was born in Tehran? That doesn't make any sense. And then, for example, you're saying plenty of secular Israelis are Mizrahi. Yeah, okay, and
What
I'm
does that
a
have to
Middle
do with
Eastern.
anything? We weren't talking about the Mizrahim.
No, because he was saying that I say these ideas like European ideas versus Middle Eastern ideas, and he's saying like, well, Israelis who are from Middle East, many of them are secular. Yeah, like for me, I'm also Middle Eastern and I'm a secular liberal, but these ideas were popularized in the West. Yeah. So that doesn't contradict what I'm saying. And again, Arthur is saying something similar, saying Haredi culture is Europe and from 400 years ago. No, Abrahamism is ancient. You're talking 400 years ago. I'm talking 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. These came from the Middle East. And also somebody saying, disagreeing with me, saying Zionism is Judaism. No, Zionism is not Judaism. Zionism was created to protect Jews, both religious Jews and non-religious Jews, atheist Jews, religious Jews, secular Jews, all Jews as people. It was trying to protect people, all of them, including atheist Jews. Zionism originated as a secular movement. It was a secular movement. The founders of Zionism were non-religious people. The first enemies of Zionism were religious Jews. Go look, I don't know, I say, go look, read your history. How come I know this more than you? Anyways, I'm going to stop ranting. You're muted.
Okay, so we got a lot of reactions in the live chat. So, and this is helpful because this is exactly what I wanted to discuss. So thank you for people giving me your opinions because this is really helpful. I like the insight. So Sarah is saying, I feel sad that ultra-Orthodox have to do things that go against their religious beliefs, but that is also simply the toll you have to pay to live in this country. What do you think about that?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm not sad. People, they have to go against their religious beliefs. This is like, why should the society treat you differently because of your religious beliefs? I'm not sad. I'm actually happy that your religious beliefs are not being used as a privilege. This is an improvement in Israel. This is why I love Israel. Israel is becoming, this is the right direction. Israel is caring less and less about your religious privilege. This is one step in the right direction. This shows that Israel, even like people think right-leaning governments are anti-liberal. This shows to me that even a right-leaning government understands liberal principles that makes Israel great. This is a step in the right direction where you can't use your religious beliefs as an excuse to not to be treated like other citizens. In fact, I want this to go all the way to Muslims and Arab Israelis as well. Why is it that Jews have to serve in the military and Israeli citizens who are Arab or Muslim, why do they they're getting all the benefits from being an Israeli citizen? In fact, I think it's not just the ultra-Orthodox Israeli citizens that are enjoying this privilege that they shouldn't be. The law should apply to everyone equally, including Arab Israelis that are not forced to either remove it for everybody or make it equal for everyone, including the Arabs, including Muslims. That's what I think.
The Druze actually heavily serve in the IDF. I think disproportionately for their population.
Because they want to. I think they want to. That's not by force.
Yeah. The cat lady saying, I think the ultras need to wake up because they are harming their image in the overall society. This is something that I've heard reflected a lot when I go do my browsing, my testing of the waters. I hear the sentiment a lot. And now it is absolutely justified. I never supported drafting them, but now it's wartime. It's too much. That's what was so fascinating when I was watching some of these discussions. These women were talking about how in their communities, people literally live like they don't know that a war is happening. And the other women on the panel, not from that community, is like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, no, I mean, it's like the same way that a war is happening in Ukraine. And they're like, what? SAR is saying there are plenty of ultra-Orthodox Jews in the IDF. The Haredi can join too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was talking about this. And I was learning about some of the social programs they're running for this. Yeah. So Unicorn raised a similar point to what you just said, Armin. Other religions don't have conscription there. Muslims don't have to join the IDF, nor Christian, Druze, etc. I'd actually really like to learn more about why this started. When did this start, and what was the reasoning at the time? I'd be very curious.
Wait, Druze, I think is mandatory for Druze in Israel, even though I know a lot of Druze want to, anyways. But for Druze, I think for Druze is mandatory, isn't it? For mandatory? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, it should
Sam
be
is
equal.
saying that the men
Equal.
have to serve.
Druze men, not women, have to serve. Okay, so that's a double standard. Why is it that with rest of the citizens, their men and women have to serve, but with Druze only their men have to serve? Equal. Okay, guys, it's a liberal principle. Equal laws for all your citizens. If you're a citizen, you don't get any privileges because of your ethnicity or your religious beliefs. You're a citizen. You're a citizen. A citizen is a citizen is a citizen. Okay. Equality under the law, one of the most important liberal principles.
Yeah, so Ukraine is saying that it's because of the security risk.
Oh, you don't
That's what
trust
I
them with the
assumed.
guns. So,
Well, I mean, Armin, if that's the actual reasoning and justification for
reason.
it, what do you think about that?
I mean, you don't. So you're saying these citizens are not to be trusted? That's why you're not giving them guns? Okay, so here's
Or
the
the
thing.
training on
This is
how
what
to, be a soldier.
to be a soldier. So I will accept if there's an ideal that you're working towards to, okay, that works, that we know works, but you are not in that position to be able to do that right now. As long as I know that you're trying to bring your nation to a point where that ideal that we know we have proven that works in a society, you're moving in that direction. I'm not like an idealist that thinks that everything has to be, we should ignore pragmatic situations and everything has to be this good right now. But as long as you're aspiring to go into that direction, even though it's not reasonable to do it at the moment, the trend and the direction matters more to me rather than where you are right now. So if it's true that this is a security concern, I can see the point, as long as we are trying to make it go to a direction where, Arab, I mean, I've seen some major progress recently. Ever since October 7th, the percentage of Arab Israelis that consider themselves to be patriotic and consider their identity to be Israeli has skyrocketed. Impressively so, faster than many people, including even me, anticipated. Okay. This is the direction that we want Israel to go. So we could hope for a day, even if we are not in a situation right now where all citizens could be treated equally, we have to move into that direction. So the direction is what matters more. And again, this is why I celebrate this news, because this is moving in the right direction.
Okay, I see your point. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um okay. Wait, what was the comment I wanted to hire? Yeah, so this is kind of what I was saying about the social consequence that people face from the Haredi community if they want to join. The cat lady saying, I know these people, many of them would love to join the army, but they have their leaders and generally they are afraid to rebel. But come on, it's not regular times, it's war.
Yeah. And remember, guys, I'm not generalizing. I am criticizing the views. Okay. So for example, I'm anti-Islam, but we have Muslims that we love, that I had Muslim guests, Muslims that I consider to be liberal themselves, even though if they don't understand that liberalism and Islam are contradictory, the fact that they are liberal as a Muslim, we support them, we support their activism. So when I say this is bullshit, these are backward views, I'm not saying that all single ultra-Orthodox Jewish people, they're all bad people. I'm talking about these positions. I'm not generalizing all the individuals. I'm sure there are even very extremely religious Jewish people that I would love as an individual, that I would get along with. I would be against their religious views, but I'm not condemning these people. But I will never hold back in how aggressively I am against certain views, even if I could celebrate the individual as a person and maybe even be friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I think about, I can't fully think about what it would be like if I was in a similar situation in my nation because it's just not a lot of analogous scenarios, but I just think about like if there was an extremely traditionalist, pretty high control community that had this much power over my politics nationally and locally, um, just with my disposition, I'd be losing my mind. I'd be so pissed. It doesn't matter like what the background is or it's about the for me a lot of it is about how high control a community is.
And also, Susie, I've been to Tel Aviv. Okay, Tel Aviv is such a modern, advanced place. Like it's a city that is above and beyond like most other cities in the Middle East. Okay, and then in Tel Aviv, I went to this ultra-Orthodox places. People, okay, it's like going into a fucking time machine. It's like having a very advanced, secular, liberal city, and then you go to this neighborhood that is these ultra-Orthodox people living. You feel like you have went 300 years back in time. It's insane. The values there, the way they treat women, the view that they have over technology, the way that they control the society. There are so women don't get to have phones, so that they don't. Men only get to have phones that are not smartphones, and it's completely regulated. And the women, just so that they're not exposed to liberal free views, they don't get to have any phones. And they communicate with like posters on walls. And there are some women that are trying to save this woman, and they go put hidden like anti-female messages on these walls, but they have hidden messages in there to let these women know that there's help from them outside of this bubble. It's completely like Handmaid's Tale situation right in the middle of Tel Aviv. Like you have no idea the level of anti-female discrimination that exists there and the level of control they have there. There's signs that are blaming situations, an accident that happened a week ago. In one of the signs that we were reading, an accident happened in the street, and they were blaming it because some women in the neighborhood were not wearing proper clothing. They black out. It's even worse than Islamic countries. They were blacking out even like children's legs on advertisements that were on products that
There's
were
tons
selling
of
there.
like advertisements for ovens and female products, and they literally don't show women in the entire image. It's actually a huge
Yeah,
problem.
the boys have prayers in their school. The boys there, they have prayers thanking God for not being born a girl. That's part of their curriculum. They start their classes by thanking God for not being born a girl.
I'm laughing because I I have a sex-based chronic disease, and I'm like, dude, I get it. Trust me. Like, because this disease I have, like, dude, same.
Right.
Oh my god. No, I mean, you've told me that you've seen women in Israel that have a more restrictive life than women in Iran.
Yeah, but
They're worse
again, this
off.
is not most of Israel. This is our very
Yeah.
specific, unique places in Israel. Like most of Tel Aviv is fucking great. And then you go to here, it's like, am I still in Tel Aviv? Or did I just move to an Islamic country? What is this neighborhood? Yeah, so this is it's weird. I mean, actually, you can find this in New York as well. In New York, there's a ultra-Orthodox Jewish part that is just like that. Anyways, I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah. Okay, let's go through a few more comments and super chats. Um uh yeah, the cat lady saying the main thing is not to mix with society. That's why they're so segregated, which is absolutely
Right.
correct. They are separated, and they will not be the same if their children go to the army. So, but again, this is what worries me because this is okay, I don't care what freaking religion or ethnicity you are. This is the mark of a destructive high control group. These are really toxic behavior patterns. And yeah, part of indoctrination is the control over the physical environment. It really bothers me. So I do want people to be more mixed within society. That's healthy. Um um so actually, no, let's go to that last. Sarah is saying only a tiny percentage of Jews ever spend most of their time learning Torah and all of history. This phenomenon was created in Israel, unfortunately, for political reasons. It needs to go away. So this is someone agreeing with you, Armin. And yeah, this was an exemption originally started by the Israeli government for the sake of posterity and preserving their history that was almost eliminated, you know. And they never expected that it would grow to this degree. Originally, it was only for like some 40 odd yeshiva students or something. That's my understanding of the history. The Cali is saying the main issue is that they have way too much influence politically because they are a tiny minority that might make a difference, and that's a voting crowd, and they're having kids a lot. Yeah, we've talked about this whole demographic shift a lot on this channel. EF was also saying, we don't need freeloaders. They are not a special class of people. They should enlist like the rest of us. It's only fair. Also, they get grants and some financial support as well as not serving. And this is also an attitude I've seen reflected when I was doing my digging for kind of Israeli reactions about this kind of thing. A lot of people were like, okay, you don't want to serve, you don't get your benefits. I can understand the frustration. Okay, so let's go to the super chats. One just thank you for the super chat and saying hello from Germany. Just stumbled in. Love
Hello.
you too. Thank you. Thank you for supporting. Um Kenny asked a question saying, but aren't there other groups also exempt from conscription? So shouldn't they be exempt either? Or am I just we kind of
Yes.
already talked about this. Yeah, you
Yes.
covered your position on this.
I agree. I agree with Kenny.
Um And I'll do this one last. Sam Samuels gave 30 shekels. Thank you, Sam. That's generous. Saying, great show as always. Western culture is not perfect, and I would never say otherwise. I see the Haredim, and I grew up as Haredi, as a very Western form of Judaism. It's extremism and toxic idealism that definitely come from the West.
Okay, so let's just be clear. When I say
Ooh.
European ideas, I'm not talking about all European ideas. I'm not talking about all Western ideas. I'm specifically talking about liberal Enlightenment values. Okay,
Yeah.
because you know what? What else is Western, Sam? Nazism is Western.
Marxism.
Marxism is Western. Wokeism is Western. A lot of times I say Marxism is Western. People say Marxism is Russian. No, Marx was German, guys. Marx was German. Okay, so I'm specifically
Postmodernism
talking
is
about
French.
yes. So when I say Judaism, okay, so yeah, this is the maybe a Western version of Judaism, but originally Judaism came from the Middle East. It went around the world. I mean, Islam also has Western versions, Indonesian versions, Middle Eastern versions, North African versions, but originally it came from the Middle East, right? So I'm talking about the origins, right? So just remember, that's why I say Western liberal values. I don't say Western values. There's a lot of Western values that are shit. In fact, some of the worst ideas in the world, I mean, the top 3 worst ideas in the world, 2 of them is Western. The top 3 worst ideas right now spreading is Islam, wokeism, and Marxism. 2 of them are Western. So we're not endorsing all Western ideas, right? Anyways.
No, but I mean, just based on the history of this specific sect of Judaism, I mean, it has been influenced by the hundreds of years that it's spent within the European continent. Like that's obvious.
Yes. But we just refer to the origins of these ideas as a way to separate, like as a way to brand them. I'm not saying like obviously they're being influenced by other things. I mean, people say the West, the world actually is basically the competition between the ideas that came from 2 cities, Athens and Jerusalem. I like to add Florence as well because I think like when it comes to empiricism and liberalism and age of enlightenment, the Renaissance was the main thing that started that as well. So I like to, instead of cutting it into 2 pieces of Jerusalem and Athens, because I think Athens is rationalism, Jerusalem is faith, I like to add a 3rd city, Florence, that is empiricism and humanism and bring things from, because I think both Athens and Jerusalem believe in an ideal world of that is separate from us, and they think like humans are trying to, that we do not belong into this world, and the whole point of life is to move to a world that we actually belong to, either as Platonism or Abrahamism. They both believe in that. It was the Renaissance that brought us from either Plato's idealism or Abrahamic out of worldliness, brought us back to earth, brought us from the heavens
into
to
the
earth.
material.
Basically made us humanistic, made us more empiricist, and then eventually the Renaissance led to the Age of Enlightenment. So I think like both Athens and Jerusalem are inferior to what Florence brought humanity to, I think, in my opinion. That's my categorization.
I have so many questions I want to ask you about this, but it's a huge diversion.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then John gave us one of those. Okay, so let's go to the super chats. So Jan, who, no offense, has been kind of going off on some nonsense in the live chat, but thank you for the super chat, Jan. Saying,
thank you.
Have you heard of Theosophy, an ideology behind the UN's global vision? It seeks to unify the world by embracing national and religious identities. Could this explain the UN's stance towards Israel? So Jan has been like spouting off in the live chat about some like globalist BS. Sorry.
No,
what do you think? Does this explain the UN? I don't think so.
No. Okay, so guys, we could do globalism wrong, and we could do globalism, the right way. Globalism is not necessarily a bad thing. Globalism that threatens countries' right to choose their own destiny and their own independence, that is the wrong form of globalism. But globalism that respects each country's border integrity and the right to self-determination, but also enables countries to work with each other and cooperate with each other, that is the good version of globalism. And the UN's failures is not because of these conspiracy theories. UN's failures is because it doesn't have, is because of its members. UN is not really a thing other than a table for people to sit around and decide things. If there's a problem with the UN, it's because of the people sitting around those tables, because the UN itself is just a reflection of its members. So the table is not the issue, is the people sitting around those tables, is the people that are. So if you see an anti-Israeli bias in the UN, it's because there is an anti-Israeli bias in the world. And an anti-Israeli bias in the world makes leaders of countries to be have a bias against Israel, and that makes the UN to have a bias against Israel. So this is a reflection of the world. It's not inherently a UN problem, right? But when it comes to the UN itself, in fact, the whole point of UN is the opposite of what you're saying. The whole point of the UN, if there's one thing sacred in the UN, is basically the nationalism, is the national independence. Everything else in the UN is secondary. Human rights are secondary. The UN's main purpose is for each country to be independent and their border integrity to be respected, and for them to be able to not be meddled with. That's the point of the UN, is to defend the concept of a nation state. So basically the opposite of what you're saying. The anti-Israeli bias from the UN comes from the anti-Israeli bias in the world, and that's we need to fix the world. So the reason why you want to blame the UN, I think, because that makes it an easier problem to solve, because you think the world is okay, so we could just fix UN. But no, the problem is bigger than that, and because you have to fix the world now. So because the world, if you realize what's happening, the problem seems more challenging, and conspiracy theories try to simplify the problem. But we have to deal with the problems as they are, not with the way that we want them to be.
Go off, King. Hannah gave a super chat saying, are you aware the word transphobia nowadays is used in the same way the word Islamophobia is used to shut down legitimate criticism? Are we aware of this? Yes, we are, my friend. And I feel like we
Yes,
talk about
yes.
it. We don't, not as much because it doesn't come into the topics that we cover, at least on this show, uh, that often. But yes, I agree.
You know
Uh,
that because people who have been trans rights activists all their lives have been now been accused of transphobia because they're not going full cuckoo.
yeah,
So you know this is where we are at right now. Trans rights activists are called transphobic because they're not going full woke.
yeah, because they have other ideas. They refuse to be part of the monolith. Um,
Mm.
and they are some of my like heroes, like people like Buck Angel. I like incredible. Um, I'm a big fan of Buck Angel, and people are going to cancel me for that. So be it. So be
Yeah.
it. John Bundock gave a super chat saying, "Not to divert, but what are y'all's thoughts on Heigl?" I'm going to divert to or toss over to Armin because it has been a long time since I studied Heigl,
Thank you.
and I don't remember that much specifically. God, I'm getting old because that was so long ago. I just remember that I was like, I hate reading his writing. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well,
And
well,
I'm like, this is slightly better than Kierkegaard.
well, Well, I don't know. The best way to understand Hegel is not to go to read what he's writing because he writes in a way that it's even hard for even some philosophers to understand. It's better to take a course on him. But anyways, like asking what your thoughts on Hegel is actually very like this is a guy, one of the few philosophers that has a full systematic approach to trying to explain everything. So it depends on what specifically you're talking about. Like I could just because that's a your thoughts on Hegel cannot be summarized in a couple of sentences, right? I could just tell you one thing that um I like about him is that he considers one thing I learned from Hegel that I like is that philosophers are not the people who actually make the direction of they're basically come after the direction is set by society, right? They are not the ones who are making society move in different directions. They are just a product of their time, right? So one of the famous things that he says is that I mean I think he exaggerates, but I like thinking about it sometimes is that what is actual is factual and what is factual is what is actual is factual and what is factual is actual. So basically what you're seeing is happening is the most rational thing that could happen. Like there is no other way. This is like if you're like, oh, society should be this or that. It's what you're seeing is how things are supposed to happen. What is fact, what is rational basically is what actually is happening, right? Basically that's what he's saying. So basically he's what when you read other philosophers with that perspective or historians um, or even enlightenment thinkers that you might think like, oh, John Locke changed everything. Did he change everything, or was his ideas the natural ideas from a philosopher you would get from his time? Like if you remove John Locke, would you have another John Locke coming up with similar ideas anyways? Because that was the most demanding. That was the demand for those ideas were the heaviest at that time. If you read, for example, Hobbes's life and the environment that he was in, you could see why he would have those ideas. If you read John Locke, if you read Rousseau, you could be like, oh, I could see why he would have those views in that time. So it seems like they are not the trend makers; they are part of the trend, right? So, and again, reading that and also other philosophers made me realize how much the wisdom of the crowd is more than the wisdom of individuals. So just like in the markets, in the where Marxism is wrong, that a few individuals cannot set the market in the way that would be the most productive. I think when it comes to politics, is the same thing. It's basically the same thing, which is weird. Which is weird because one thing that you could hate Hegel for is that Marxism came from Hegelian attitudes. So what Marx hated from Hegel was that he believed that he's right, that the history comes in phases, but he didn't like the spiritual nature, because Hegel considered history to be basically God, right? The spirit of God is history, and God is an evolving thing, right? So it basically goes through phases. There's tensions between different elements of society, and it's kind of like a pendulum, and it basically rests in a place, and then we go to the next tension, and we go through these phases. And he thought there's a spiritual thing, God is the spiritual thing, that you could see it through history, and history and God basically kind of are interchangeable from Hegel. But basically Marx saw that, and he liked it, and he removed God from it, and he made a materialist version of that, and that's how you get Marxism. There's also a young version of Hegel and an older version of Hegel. The younger version of Hegel was more his philosophy was more rebellious. The older one was much less rebellious, which also shows that you're not just a product of your time, you're also your product of your age. Younger people tend to be more rebellious, older people are less rebellious. And Marx hated the older Hegel. He loved the earlier version of Hegel. So again, I'm going into so much that those are, I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but I don't want to get into that.
Yeah. Little Cat Feet sent 15 Australian dollars with no comment. Thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat. Asian American is saying, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Humans are caught between biological evolution and mimetic evolution. I can't help but feel platonic ideal human is a hive mind hive network photo radio synthetic neurons on petri dishes orbiting a Dyson swarm. I see what you mean.
That's a theory.
And I think it's really interesting to consider how much we live for the sake of our memes.
Oh. Can I share this with people regarding guys, go if you
sorry.
Yes. So if you want to see how backward the ultra-Orthodox Jewish beliefs are about women, about personal freedom, okay? And this is in New York. Okay, if you watch this documentary, I think a lot of you are going to be shocked about how backward the society could be. You wouldn't believe you're in New York. Just like that part of Tel Aviv, you can't believe that this is in Tel Aviv. This part of New York, you can't believe that this is actually in New York. So this documentary on Netflix is a really good watch. It's called One of Us. Go check it out. And you could also see how many Jewish people are trying to fight back against this, right?
Challenge
so there's
it,
so many.
leave it, rebuild their
Yes,
lives.
exactly.
And you actually were friends with one of the guys featured in that documentary. Is his name Ari or Avi?
Yeah, no, I forgot. I think now that you ask,
Ari,
I think
right?
Ari, yes, Ari.
I remember when
Now
I
that you said
watched
the
that
second name.
documentary, I
Yes.
felt so sympathetic towards him.
Yes.
What a sweet kid. Yeah,
Ari.
Wow, we have a lot of former like ultra-Orthodox, Hasidic, Haredi people in our chat right now. I didn't realize there were so many that were part of our community. Then this covering the story brought them out. Like Sarah is saying
Wow.
that she's friends with one of the people in that film and then left
Oh,
that
you should,
community.
guys, see, this is so important to watch. It's very important for you to watch this thing. One of
Yeah.
Us on Netflix.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.